Record the meeting, and we are now recording, and I'm going to turn it over to Yelena to give you a nice walkthrough and explanation of Watson Analytics. Take it away, Yelena.
All right, good evening, everybody. So the purpose of today's meeting is to help you get started with Watson Analytics. It's our first meeting out of two, there will be two. So this is an agenda. We're going to learn what Watson Analytics is and what you need to do to get started, the 3Ds, the refining data, natural language questions, and the prediction models, and how to present your findings, saving your work, and I'll show you some documentation. All right, so what is Watson Analytics? Well, before I discuss anything, I'm gonna need a volunteer. Could somebody count how many lines of code I will have written tonight? Okay, so somebody, remember, I'll get back to this question later tonight. All right, so what Watson Analytics does, it helps business understand their data. You just basically ask a question in English, in your human language, and bang, right in a minute or in few seconds, you get the result. It's very intuitive, and there is a very minimum learning curve. All right, well, some good news. Our team, in the past semesters, our team took part in the global competitions. And here are some links of the project that they submitted, and they won. This is a worldwide competition. It's not just United States, okay? Now here you can watch, you can check out this video. This tells you a little bit of history behind Watson Analytics, how everything started, natural language questions. I'll leave it for you to explore at your leisure. All right, so how do we get started? Yesterday, I sent you an invitation that what you need to do is you need to accept it. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys here. If for some reason, if the account activation fails outside of our control, it takes 2 to 5 business days for IBM to resolve the issue, okay? So that's a reason I wanted everybody to accept your invitation. If you have not done so, right, after this meeting, after this session, please go ahead and do that. Because if we don't learn about the problem early enough, we might not be able to get it resolved this week, and it's going to make you behind, okay? We don't want that. Please, we don't want that. And here is my email. You can contact me if you're having any problems with accessing your account, okay? Now, this is a login page, right? After you accept Watson Analytics invitation, this is a page you use to access an application later on. And you're gonna be prompted for your IBM ID and a password. So your IBM ID is an email where you got your invitation. Password is a password you created at the registration time. If you forgot your password, not a big deal. You can reset it. You can always reset it, right? All right, and you're limited to resetting your password to once a day. Just remember that. Anyhow, so this is how your landing page will look like, and I'm going to show you. Actually, I'm going to do the hands-on part, the demo, but first we start with slides. So this is how it's going to look like, and there are 3Ds. These are the 3Ds that I'm talking about: data, discover, display. Data is basically the data that you upload, you want to analyze. Discover is when you build your models, right? Your visualizations. And display is when you present your findings to your end user. But before we actually do anything, there are some rules. We are going to avoid using the browser back button. It just does not exist. We're going to use the drop-down menu instead. Because if you use the browser back button, back and forward buttons, the results are unexpected. So just don't do it. All right. Well, and as I'll show you, there is a very powerful help system. In almost every screen, you have this little question mark. When you click on the question mark, you can get access to the documentation and the very powerful getting started tutorials. And you can take a tour and so on. Here I just spelled out more details for you on the 3Ds, right? Data, discover, display. Just remember that, right? and we're going to talk about HD in more details. So let's get back to our screen. Here it is. When you log in, you're not going to see this stuff in your personal area, because this is the work that you would need to do, right? Personal area is the area of your work. Nobody else can see it besides me, because I'm an admin. Shared is what was shared with you. So to see what was shared with you, you're going to click on this plus sign, and you're going to expand. And if you expand this folder, you're supposed to see 2 folders. I'm not sure why I see more, but you're gonna see 2 folders. Well, it might be a mistake in my end, but you're gonna see 2 folders. This one, data for VA course, and also folder called more data sets. You're not gonna see all of this. Not sure what's going on today, but trust me, you're not gonna see all of this folder. What you will see just data for VA course, and this one, this folder called more sample data sets. You're not gonna see anything else. Right? You're gonna see shared, and you're gonna see the personal. Just to clarify a little bit more, the data for VA course, it contains the data sets for this week homework assignment, and and also it contains the data sets for the tutorials. There are some hands-on tutorials in a classroom just to help you learn more. And here, this one is called more data sets. Those are the data that for you to use for assignment 235. And in the classroom, there is a video where I explain how to use this. You need to save a copy of this data to your personal area, okay? You need to save a copy of this data to your personal area before you can use it, because the permission you have on this is just the read-only. You have a read-only permission, right? So you're gonna do refine, and then you're gonna save a copy to your personal area. Okay, so what I did was just assume that I did it a while ago, right? This is the risk students data that we're gonna look at. And that data tracks information about the students, including their GPA and how many absences they have, and the number and their club memberships, etc. And the goal is to predict if that student is at risk of academic failure, right? I picked this data set intentionally, and I'll show you why. Anyway, so now I'm on the data tab, right? To see what actually your data looks like, you can click here on ellipsis, and you're going to select refine. Okay, I click here and I selected refine. There we go. And when I do that, I'm opening up my data. Notice that this is similar to Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. Here are my column headings, right? And here is my data right here. Now, if I click here, I'm going to see the data quality score. The data quality, it means it tells me how good, how bad my data is, so to speak. If the quality is lower, it means that your data the values are skewed. Take a look at this. For example, here, most of the values are no, right? So that's why the data quality score is lower. On the other hand, since this male and females, the number of males females is approximately equal, so you have a high quality. Here, the distribution looks more like a bell-shaped curve, right? So that's the reason the data quality is high, right? Here, this one is low because, well, basically every single row has a New York. This data, this is a subset. This is a subset of possibly larger data set. The data we have in this file is only for New York. So probably you're not gonna use this column in your analysis, right? Here, well, it says unique values, but secretly this column, this is not a unique identifier. It says unique values because the column has more than 50 distinct values. There are more than 50 counties in this data set. So that's the reason it says unique, right? So here, what you can do is you could filter the data. Like let me give you an example. See here, I can do the change in GPA, and suppose that I want to pick only no change. So what I do is I click here, and my data is filtered to the subset. I'm only looking at the no change in the GPA. Or suppose that I change my mind, I want everything but no change, then I'm going to do an invert, right? And then if I change my mind, I don't want any filtering, I'm going to click on clear, right? In your homework assignment, you are asked to check the properties, right? So for example, here is my variable class rank. This is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to click on this ellipsis here, and I click on the properties. Now it's going to tell me the variable type. In this case, it's a text. Do the values have an order? Well, in this case, they're not. And the aggregation, that's basically when I try to display something like the number of people at a certain class rank per county, right? It's going to do the count. It will make more sense when we do the visualization. Now, I don't have the sort defined on this column. I want to use this column as a driver. So basically, when I try to predict something, I want to use this column as part of the prediction, right? And this is a categorical variable. Categorical variables have a predefined values. Like, for example, this one, right? It has predefined values. In this case, I believe it's 4 values. On the other hand, if you're looking at the cost, it's a numeric continuous, right? And it does not have a predefined set of values. Well, the reason it makes a difference is that suppose that I want to create a binning, right? I don't want to look at the actual cost, but I want to look at the cost ranges perhaps, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here and I'm going to create the data group. There are 2 ways to do it. You can click on the column headings that you want to group, or you can click on this plus sign. Data group, and now here I'm going to look up my column. I know that it's something like a state. I know that it's a state, it's something like cost, right? So I click, by default it's selected state. I don't want the state. I want something like a cost, right? Here it is, student cost. So take a look at what is going to happen now. Data group creates another column, right? And I'm going to call it cost range. Data group, in other words for it, is binning or discretization. You see different terminology in different readings. So by default, what it's going to do is it's going to break the values into 5 ranges, and here are the range boundaries. So I'm not interested in actual cost, but I'm interested in the cost range. Like for example, between 86,000 and 92,000, something like that, right? So by default, it's going to split into equal ranges, but I can change it. I can always do custom, and I can drag and drop and to define the width area, right? Or I can change the number of bins as well, right? So let me go back to the here, and now when I'm gonna click on done, what it did was it added another column in here. It added another column at the end, and this is called the cost range. See this? I'm not looking at the actual cost. I'm looking at the range. Okay, so I mean. Yeah, so now what I could also do is I could do the grouping for the categorical variables. Like, let me give you an example here. I have this counties, right? And suppose that I want rather to look at the region instead of the county. Well, that's going to be hypothetical region just for the sake of example right now. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to click here, I'm going to click here, and I'm going to select the data group. Now, unlike for my continuous variables, where I already had my groups predefined, this is not the case here. I have to explicitly create each group. I have to explicitly create each group, right? So, and before that, I have to name my new column, because when I create the data group, it's going to add the new column. Oh, the name refers to existing column. Oh, that's because I may have created something earlier. I may have created something earlier as part of the previous demo. Well, let's just call it region 2. Now what I'm gonna do is this. I need to create groups, right? So let me call this, let's say, let's call this New York region, NY region 1, right? So that's gonna stand for, see this, I have the state New York, and I'm gonna create region 1. I'm gonna create another one, and I'm gonna call it region 2, right? And I'm gonna do another one. I'm gonna call it region 3, right? And just an example. Now I'm gonna click OK, and this is what I'm gonna do now. I have to place these values here in one of these groups, right? So I select the group where I want to place them, and I do this. I just click, click, click. I'm gonna go here, click, 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 and I'm gonna do here, and I click, click, click on what I want to put, right? So that will do it. Now what's gonna happen? Let me show you the trick. Here I have 31 remaining, right? And suppose that I want all of this to be in the same group, right? Watch. This is what I can do. I can group the remaining in another group. Watch. I click here, and this created another group called and the rest, and it placed the remaining. See this? At any time, if you don't like where the state, where the county in this case is located, you can always remove from the group and place it in another. You can always change that. Or you can always rename the group just by clicking on the pencil, or you can delete just by clicking on this thing here, right? So now what I'll do, I'm gonna click done. And what does this do? It's gonna add the column all the way at the end. See this is called the region. And I created this field here, right? And it's gonna be, well, it's to verify my work, I can always compare. Okay, see this? It's a region 1, it's a group region 1, and then I can go back and look at the actual initial values that I had in here, right? That way I can always compare, right? To verify that I got what I wanted. And now suppose that I don't like what I did, right? You can always return. You can do this. Look, I click on this, and then I go click here, and then there is a way to edit the group. I click on the properties, and somewhere in here, there should be a way to change this, right? There should be a way to change the group. See this region 2, I can change the name, and also I can do this, I can change the aggregation, and I can change the sorting. And see this is the button. If I click on edit data group button, I'm back to my groups, okay? So this is how you return this. You're gonna look at the properties, and in your properties, you'll see the button to return to these groups, right? This is how you edit. Okay, so I showed you that. Well, I realize that I'm going to be showing you a lot today. Later on, after this session, you're going to get the recording. And I would strongly recommend that you watch it. And you watch it more than once, because I'm covering a lot of concepts today. Okay, so now what I'll do here is that I have to save it. Always save, but I usually don't like to overwrite the original data. I like to save a copy. And I'm gonna save a copy into my personal folder, and let me call it refined. And I'm gonna click on save, right? Personal. Now remember, you're always gonna do, you'll be saving everything to the personal folder for right now, okay? You're not gonna be saving anything to the root of the shared folder, because I pay attention. Anything saved in the wrong location will be removed. Okay, so well, sometimes it takes a little bit of time of saving. So now I can show you this. There is some sample data that comes with your with an application. This is sample, and to access it, you would just click on new data, and then there is an option to pick samples. Some of this data is used in tutorials. All right, so this is a sample. Or when you created your account, you had an option to import the samples, right? If you haven't done it, well, you can always access it here. This is a sample data that is pre-installed, right? So you've got 3 sources of data accessible to you: this sample data and 2 shared folders. Now let's go back to the browser. I just hope that it's, well, sometimes, sometimes there are a little bit of slowdown, and it happens, well, now it happened because I'm sharing the screen, okay? Now, you're not gonna do what I'm just doing. You're not gonna do this. Don't stop, right? If it's saving, let it save. But in the meantime, let's do this. I'm going to show you about asking questions, right? So I can say something like, what drives risk, right? I can type in what drives risk. I hit enter. Now what it's gonna do is Watson Analytics will search all data sets that are accessible to me in attempt to answer my question. It's going to search through my personal folder and through the data that I have access to in the shared folder. Like, see, for example, here, what drives risk, right? This is a risk student data, the data I was just looking at. But here, there is another data that has a variable risk, right? That's a German created data. So it's attempting to search through all data that I have access to answer my question, right? That's what it's doing here. Now, what I could also type the same question while I'm on the Discover screen. I could type the same question in here, right? And I'm gonna get the same starting points. Those are called the starting points. Watson Analytics will try to guess the visualizations that I'm trying to pick up, okay? So see, same thing here, same thing. But on the other hand, if I go back to the data and if I explicitly click here, risk students, right? And if I type my question in here, what drives risk, it searches only the data that I clicked on, right? So this is the difference between asking the question in a data area or in a discover area, rather than clicking on the data and asking the question. So now I'm going to click here, and this is a spiral model. So let's see. What it does is it's going to calculate the drivers for me. I hope it works. Well, once in a while, it does not behave. Usually it does, but let's see. So basically, every driver is going to be represented as a pin on the spiral model. The closer the pin to the core, the stronger is the prediction. So risk is a categorical variable, right? It tells if the person is at the risk of academic success, right? Whether a person is at risk or not. So basically, I will show you how the model, how it looks like. See, the thing is, I usually have a lot of backup plans. So here it is. This is how it's gonna look like. Let me zoom in a little bit. Oops. Okay, so this is my model here, and in here I have a set of drivers, and the closer the pin to the core, to the center, the stronger the driver is. So here it's trying to say that the absences is the strongest predictor of the academic of the chance of academic success, so to speak. See this? Because it's closest to the center, and I have an option. I can toggle between one driver or two drivers, right? Basically, in red, it means that the combination of two columns, club membership and number of absences together, determine if a student is at academic risk, right? But the reason I picked this data set is because I wanted to show you that being absent from the classroom could have an impact on the academic performance. And as you will see it from analyzing the decision tree visualization, which hopefully I'll be able to show, if a person is absent 5 or more times, the person is at risk. Oh, no luck today, see that? It's because Elena is presenting. So now, what is this here? This is one of the columns, right? So that's the reason you want your columns to be descriptive. That's one reason. See this? Everything here, those are my columns. I can always change another, I can always pick another target variable that I want to predict. I can do it by clicking here, or I can change it right here, right? I can pick it right here. What I see here, those are the related visualizations. So Watson will think, okay, maybe Elena wants to see this here, right? Maybe she wants to see something related to what she is looking at now. Well, this is my luck, so to speak. Well, sometimes when it does it, I usually clear the cache and restart the browser, but I don't want to do it right now. Now, what you notice here, this is similar to what you saw in the refine. I click here. So this is a data tray, right? And you can define the filters here. But if you define your filters here, they will be applicable only to this discovery set. The filters are not going to be applicable to all visualizations that you build from the discovery set. Okay. Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. This is a Monday evening issue. What do we call it? It's Yelena's presentation syndrome. Every time when I have to present, this does it. This happened last time too. Anyways, so this is your driver analysis, and thankfully you saw it on the screenshot. This is how it's gonna look like. It's like a bullseye, okay? Now you also can do the decision tree. Let's see, let's try if the decision tree will work. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do visualizations, and I'm gonna pick the decision tree. Let's see that. Let's see if that works. And here you have two views. You can look at the decision rules, and you can look at the actual tree itself. So let's take a look at the slides in here. This is what happens if my target variable is numeric. Here I picked I want to predict the student GPA, and I want to build the model. So basically here it's the rule defines the category of students. So I have 210 students who class rank is the first quartile, and then here this is a number of AP test passed and the class size. So basically this is a profile of a student, and this is their average GPA, right? So basically a student who fall under this profile have this average GPA, okay? That's how this is how you interpret the rules, and this is a predictive strength, right? So this is what happens when you look at the rules, and you might toggle between rules and an actual tree. The way you read the decision tree is that you start from the root node, right? And then you look at this. Okay, first I look at the class rank, right? And then I split based on my value of the class rank. I take a pass. And then suppose that I meet this condition for this branch. Then I'm looking at the AP test pass and so on, right? And later on, I'm looking at my leaf node. I continue until I reach my leaf node. And in the leaf node, I'm gonna look at the average GPA. And here it also shows me the number of records that fall under that leaf node and the percentage of records. That's what it does. Well, yes, it worked. Yes, I'm so happy. Okay, now here what I'm doing is that, well, let's look at it this way. On the slides, this is a decision tree for the numeric variable, right? This is for numeric. Now I'm gonna look at the categorical. Okay, so here, what it does is, this is a category of students, right? So here, I'm looking at the students who are not at risk. This is a description. If a student is absent less than once, less than or equal to once, this is the number of times the student was sick, this is the number of clubs, and this is the overall GPA, right? So this is a description. And 100% of students who fall into this category, they are not at risk. And this is a number of students to whom this rule applies. And I keep on going, right? I keep on going. And as I scroll down, the chance of being not at risk decreases, right? So here, if the number of absences between 1 and 2 and 1 and 4, and this is a club membership, right? So 59% of these students were not at risk, and there are 75, right? Now what I could do is I can change at risk, and now it's gonna give me the rules for at risk. Why did I pick this data set, guys? Because I wanted to show you if you're absent more than 4 times, you are at risk. Well, in your online class, being absent more than 4 times means not participating in more than 4 discussions. So if you not participate in 5 or more discussions, then, well, guess, there could be a problem, right? So, and there are 74 students to whom this rules applies. Now here, I'm looking at between 1 to 4 students, right? This is a profile of student where you have 79% of the student is at risk, right? And it keeps on dropping. Now I'm looking at my rules, but now I can look at the trees. I can look at the trees, and this is a predictive strength, 88% of accuracy. So now, well, this is a tree. This is how I look at it. This is my root node. And I'm gonna warn you, when you take a picture, when you take a screenshot of this tree, it's not gonna look pretty. So what you want to do in your homework, well, not this homework, but I believe it's going to be assignment 3, where you're gonna be discussing these models. You want to take a screenshot only of the portion that you're discussing. You might not be able to take this picture of entire tree unless you want to take portions and then put them together as a jigsaw puzzle. That's fun. Anyhow, so what you can do is you can do the zoom in, right? I can zoom in, and I use my mouse buttons to scroll up and down. So here, look at this. This thing here, it represents all of my records, right? So here is everybody in the data set, right? All students. Now the way I do this, I'm gonna ask a question. What is the number of absences? Is it greater than 4? Then it falls under here, right? It means that everybody here is at risk. In here, if it's between 1 and 4, then I have to look at my club membership. Now I'm looking at the club membership, and if it's greater than 0, I continue, and I'm going to look at the GPA. Now I'm going to continue. If the GPA is below 2.91, I'm going to look at this, right? And I continue until I reach my leaf node. Well, in this case, you have two values, right? Sometimes you have more than one value. Here now it's only showing me the dominant. But if I have more than two, right, I want to see the split between the remaining values. So here you can toggle this. Oops, see this? When you use the light bulb here, it's gonna show you the distribution for other values. Well, in this case it's 2. I picked 2 because, well, it's a good point to start. But in your week 6 course content, there is an example with more than 2 values. Okay? And now, this part you're gonna be revisiting, and it's also in your slides. This is called this thing is called the confusion matrix. It's called classification table. Well, you're gonna see the different terminology in readings, but what it does is basically it's showing me the number of students at risk that were predicted at risk, number of students who are actually at risk, predicted not at risk, right, and so on. And you could use this to calculate the accuracy of your model, because look at this. People who are at risk, predicted at risk, right? Those are accurate predictions. Not at risk, predicted not at risk, right? So secretly, it's the sum of numbers on the diagonal here divided by the total. That gives you 88%. Well, you're gonna see examples. In fact, the examples that you see in the recording, the model does not predict one class. One of the classes is not predicted by the model, and you're not gonna see any leaf nodes where that class is dominant. Well, you'll see it in the recording. Now, what I do, I forgot that I have to do this. I'm going to rename this, and I'm gonna save it as I'm gonna name this tab as risk student 3, right? So I say I'm gonna name this, and what I have to do is I have to save this. I always have to save it, and I'm gonna call it as student discovery. Well, sometimes, okay, save it. Yes, I'm so glad that it worked, huh? Now, and also remember these buttons, right? This will fit to the screen. And here in the little rectangle, it's showing me the areas that I'm looking at. You have the zoom in, zoom out, and so on. And you can also do zoom in, zoom out with the mouse. Okay? And here it also shows you the steps, how the tree was constructed and the predictor importance. You see that the most important predictor is the number of absences. So that's basically based on how many times the predictor is used in the tree and where. Well, you notice that some of the variables are not used in the tree at all, right? So that's what it is. So now I could add more tabs, and let me just do this. I can just pick any of the starting points, and I can do this. I can do the number of absences by the county, right? And I'm going to call this map. Well, and later on you'll see why I like maps. Absences map. Okay, so the color code represents the number of absences. But, well, the reason I was talking about the aggregation earlier is because of this. If you click here, well, what it's showing me right now, right now it's showing me the sum. It's showing me the total, the grand total number of absences per county. This is not what I want. I want to see the average, right? So what I'm going to do is I can click here, I can change it here, right? Look at the summarize, and I can change the average. I want to see the average number of absences in each county, right? I don't want to I don't want to check how many times each student was absent and add it up. I want to see the average. So that's what I meant by aggregation. If I change this here, the change is applicable to just visualization. I could also change it at the level of this workbook just by going in here. I could just find this. I can just find the absences here and change it here. Then this would be applicable to all visualization in this workbook. Or I could go and change it in the data set that I'm using, right? Then it will apply to everything, all visualizations that I build. So now let me go ahead and save this. Now notice that clicking on the arrow, this is the menu, right? When I save as, and reset. When I click this button, it's gonna pick up the first item in the menu. When I just tap on this, it's gonna pick up the first item in the menu. And these two buttons are your friends, undo and redo, okay? Well, you're gonna like it. Sometimes you make a change in error and you'll be able to redo, right? So now let's add something else. Let's click on this, and this will add a new tab. This is a related visualization, right? So now I've made a change, right? Look at it, I've made a change. When I made the change and the change is not saved, you see this little asterisk next to the file name. So if you see this, it means that my file is not saved. And I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna rename it as absences by risk, right? And then what I'll do is I'm gonna save it again. And now I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do the visualization. I'm gonna do the display. Well, more likely, there were some intermittent issues in the back end, because now you see the saving works perfectly. So sometimes at just a moment, if something is not doing what you expect it to be doing, well, you wait a little bit, you try a little bit later, and it's working. Now here, whenever you see this question mark, it means that something went wrong, right? You don't want to use this for your predictions. You don't want to use this. If something went wrong, don't use it. You just want to delete this. This is not going to work for your predictions. Well, according to IBM, if you see this question mark, it means that the file was not saved correctly. You don't want to use it for your analysis. Okay? Now, hopefully, I did not use it. Hopefully I used this one, risk student. This is the reason probably my spiral visualization did not work. It could be the reason. Anyways, now what I'm gonna do display. This is the display that I created for earlier demo. Probably last summer, right? This is display from last summer. But what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna create new display, brand new. And let me call it student dashboard. Now, there are three ways to present your findings: dashboard, infographics, and the storybook. When we have a next session, I'm gonna show you infographics and storybook. But for today, I'm gonna show you the dashboard. You're gonna create a student dashboard. Here, you've got the layout templates, and I like 2x2. Okay, so here I've got 4 sections, and I can add my visualizations to each section here. I have several options. I can add the visualizations that I already created, or I can create the new one on the fly. If I create a new visualization on the fly, it will not be available in other dashboards that I create. I won't be able to reuse it. When I created visualization on a discovery area, it's reusable on other visualizations. So now let me do this. I'm gonna click on personal, and now I'm going to see everything, all of these workbooks, all of the discovery workbooks that I created, and I can do I can do one from now. I can do one from the earlier demonstrations. Like this is what I created today. Click on the arrow to expand this tab, to expand this. Now I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna drag and drop here. And I'm gonna drag and drop, but watch what I'm doing. I want to put my mouse cursor on top of the arrow, right? Then automatically it's gonna size this visualization for me to fit in a slot. This is a student, this is a tree. Well, one thing to bear in mind is that the more visualizations you have on a single page, the longer the page is gonna take to load. So just remember it. So this is my first stop, right? I'm gonna save it. Save, always save in the personal area. Now what I'm gonna do is, I'm going to add a second tab. And let's do just one. And I'm gonna add my map. I want to see the map only. Well, the reason I'm doing it is because, well, map is easy to illustrate how the filters work. So take a look at this. I've got two tabs, right? I've got a map here that shows the absences, and I have another map here. Okay, so that shows me the average absences by county, right? So I have 2 pages. Now, it's possible to do the filters. What we can do is, we can filter the visualizations. We can filter the visualizations on a single tab, or we can apply the filter to all tabs, right? So let's see, let's look at the difference. When I click on filters here, and I'm going to intentionally pick the county, and I'm gonna pick the county only to this tab. And I'm going to click here, and I'm gonna edit filter values, and I'm going to select just the 5 counties. There's 5 counties, right? There we go. Now what's gonna happen? I selected just 5. Take a look. This is how my map looks like now, right? Well, it's because I unselected the rest of it, right? I only want to see 5. This is what I see here. Now I'm going back to this tab, and I still see all of my counties. Wait a minute, didn't I just apply the filter? What's happening? Well, I applied the filter only to the first tab. I didn't apply the filter to the second tab. Okay, now let's just fix it. Well, when I do the clear filter, when I select clear filter, it's just gonna unselect the values that I specified. If I do delete filter, it will remove here. It will remove the whole variable from the filter criteria. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take count and I'm gonna put it into all tabs. And what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna click here, and I'm going to edit filter values. And now I'm going to select just few counties. This is here, edit filter values. And I'm going to intentionally, oh, what happened? Edit filter values, come on. And I'm going to select just a few. Well, you know, this is called Yelena is presenting. Anyhow, if I'm going now and if I select only few filter values, right? Then my filtering is gonna apply to both tabs. It's gonna apply to both tabs. Whatever I choose here, it will be applicable to both tabs. Because if I define the filter in this area, all tabs, here, single tab. Also, what I could do is, this is called the focus mode. I click on this visualization and click here. This is the focus mode. And I can make changes here to my visualization. This is similar to the interface you saw in Discovery, right? Here, you can change the formatting. Like, for example, you can show the details. You can show the title. Sometimes you get different variations of the charts. Like, you want to see the stock chart. You want to swap the axis. here you can change the numbering, and you can change the colors and different backgrounds. Well, I think you're asked to play with this in your homework assignment, right? So you're asked to play around with different fonts, etc. Right? I'm gonna leave this fun part for you. Saving it now. Uh, Now what I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna add the third tab, and I'm gonna create another visualization here from scratch, right? Just to show you. And I'm gonna go to discovery. Instead of reusing what I already created, I can click on the personal, and oh, hold on, I can do the new discovery rather. If I scroll up here, I can do the new discovery. So now here is all data sets that I can see. I can click on my risk student, and I can do something similar to what I was doing when I illustrated the discovery tab, right? I can just pick any visualizations that I want. And here it is. This is my drivers. I can pick it here. Yes, it worked. See this? Okay, now, see this? I pick my drivers here, but this visualization will be unavailable in other dashboards that I built. It's because I built it in the dashboard itself. So this is what I was talking about. You can, if you unclick two drivers, you can see only the drivers where one variable is a predictor, right? You can toggle here. You can also use this data tray to filter, right? Or you can also click on list. Well, here it won't do anything. Here it won't do anything. But if you're doing it in a discovery, it will create a new tab with another visualization. It will show the absences breakdown by the risk category. That's what it will do. If you are doing this in a discovery, it will open a new tab with more details on this. So now we do this to exit the focus mode, right? And you're going to save this. Now, okay, I want to return to the landing page, and I need to show you a few things. So here, this is your data. This is your discover, right? And this is a display, so you have these areas. As you start working on things, you're gonna get more tiles. So you have the options here. You can show the tile layout, or you can do the list layout, right? Well, I like the tile. But here you can choose how you sort the data. Then you can run the search. Well, here you can search for the file, right? Same thing here. Well, in this area, you type the search for the file. In this area, you type your question, so that's the difference. Here you search for the file, like for example, student, right? The type student is gonna give me all the data sets here that have the word student, right? This is what I can do. Now, this is just different ways to how I can sort it, right? Then I can get more organized. In my personal folder, I can create a subfolder. For example, I can do something like assignment 2, right? This is my folder. Now, something very important. If I want to move my file into the folder, the file must be closed, right? So just for the demonstration, I click here. See this? It says that I have the student discovery open right now, right? Let's see if it lets me move the file. See the student discovery? Let's see if it lets me do this. This is a student discovery. It's in my personal area, and I want to move it to assignment 2. So to do this, I do move. Do you see that? Well, if you get this error, it means that you cannot move your file while it's open, right? If the file is open, you cannot do this. What you have to do is you click on this arrow, and then you have to close the file. But first, you want to check if you save it. If you did not save it, you're going to see a little asterisk next to it. Well, apparently there is no asterisk, so the file is saved. I could just close it by clicking on the X, right? So I X'd out. Now I will be able to do this. This is a move, and I'm going to put it to assignment 2 folder, and I'm just gonna click move, okay? So now I'm gonna say, where is my file? Well, to see a file, look, you click on the personal, and then you click on the assignment, and this is your file, student discovery. Number 3 means that the file, this discovery has 3 tabs, right? And then here, this is a menu, right? It tells me what I could do. I could rename it, I could move it, or I can delete it. But on one of the slides, I put a picture of the recycle bin, an X on top, with an X on top. Once you delete something, it's gone forever. Even myself, I cannot do anything about it. I cannot undo it. Now, another thing is here, this is a data, right? Every discovery that you create is associated with the data. It's rather associated with an ID. It's associated with an ID that the data has. This risk student data set behind the scene, it has an ID, right? So what happens is you create a discovery. If you delete this data set, your discovery will be invalid. And there is no way in the world to fix it because it's associated not with the file name, but with the file ID. Even if I upload another copy of this file, I cannot fix this. I cannot. So you have to be extra careful before you delete something, right? You may even want to, in your folder, create a subfolder called trash, and put it temporarily in there until you're certain that this is something you want to delete, right? Now, this is what's not to do. See this? This is the root of shared folder. You do not want to save any files here because anything that can be saved here can be accessed by anyone in the system. Then it means that your work can be deleted or modified by anyone. It's a fair game, right? Then you're gonna be saying, hey, what happened? Where is my file? Well, to help everyone for everyone's sake, if anything is saved at the wrong place, I'm going to remove it. And as a courtesy, I just put it in my personal area. I put it in my admin account in the designated area, which I call trash, right? And then if you lost something that you accidentally saved in the shared here instead of your personal area, you'll need to contact me and I'll give it back to you, okay? Sometimes I'm nice. Sometimes only for the data, I can click here and then I can click on a property, asset information. It's gonna tell me who the culprit is, sometimes. But I cannot do it for the discovery, I cannot do it for display. But for the data, I can look it up and then I have a tracking file that can tell me what session you're in. And I can contact your instructor or your TA, right? And will let them know that I have your data and it's saved. And contact me if you need it back, Accidentally, if you said something accidentally to the wrong location, just go ahead and remove it, right? Because it will be removed. Okay? And also, if you notice that when you ask questions, it looks at all data that's accessible to you. You don't want your classmates to run questions against your work, right? You don't want that. So we want to make sure you save everything to the personal area. And you may create subfolders in your personal area only. And I believe it's up to 5 levels. Don't remember exactly. Now, when you delete the folder, all folder contents get deleted. So just keep that in mind, okay? Now, so remember the data discover display. You have to navigate between tabs. And same thing here, right? I'm not going to see the discoveries that are moved unless I click here, right? So I want you guys to just get the concept because it's a lot to cover. Now, this is what I don't want you to do it, but I want to make sure that you know how to do it. If I was going to upload the data set from my desktop, I would click here on the new data, right? And then I want to select this is a new discovery. I want to go to the data and if I want to upload the new data, I click here, then I can select local file, and then I'm gonna do browse, right? Select a file and click import. The reason I don't want you to do that because, well, Watson Analytics is really picky to the format. You have to have a value you cannot have like empty columns. Like I have a slide, I have a slide on this. Let me go ahead and show you the slide. And I actually added the notes for you on why this will not work. Okay, I have the slides. Well, you have to have at least one numeric field. Each column should have a name and it should have a descriptive name because every column name in Excel will eventually be the field in your data, right? And that's what you use to ask your questions, right? All the column names must be intuitive and descriptive. You want to avoid using dashes and spaces. You want to make sure the values in the same column have the same data types and the file is not password protected. You cannot have empty columns in a file. You cannot have special formatting, like this is an example. Okay, see, this is not gonna work. It's because of this formatting in the header and all these colors, this will not work. In here, the problem is that I don't know what's A1, A2, A3, A4. This is not descriptive. In here, the problem is that different data types. Here I have age as a number, and here I have a category, right? So this is no go. I'll give you some examples of no go. And here are some errors that you may get when you import in the data. If I try to import the file called risk students, it won't let me because I cannot have two files with the same name, right? And if my files have more than 2 sheets, it's gonna ask me which sheet I want to import, right? Those are just the good to know things. And here I just spelled out what I was talking about the refining data and different things that you could look at and so on, right? Well, joining data, we're going to save this piece for the next video, right? For the next session, rather, sorry. Okay, so we talked about the properties. Here, if you look at this, when I define my filtering on the columns, if the column is numeric, it's a slider, right? I select the values range. If the column is categorical, I pick the value. Well, basically, let me see if it's still, I close it, right? So I'm gonna go to data and I'm going to do the risk students and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If I go on refine, here, take a look at this. Here, change in GPA, this is categorical, right? So here, this is the values, right? I just pick the values that I want. On the other hand, if I've got my numeric, if I've got the numeric in here, this is a slider, right? I select the range. Sometimes it's unclear. Sometimes I could have the categorical variable with numeric values. Sometimes, like here, it gets a little bit misinterpreted. Right, well, not this one, but well, sometimes you could have the categorical variables with numeric values, right? It could be misinterpreted as a slider, right? Sometimes you could explicitly change it. That's what basically the slide is showing, that sometimes you could change it here, right? Okay. Now, also for each column, you can specify if it can be used as a predictor. So I believe there is one homework question where you're asked to list the columns that can be used as a driver. Basically, what you're looking at here is that you're looking at the column properties. When you're doing the assignment, you need to do all questions in order because at the time when that question is asked, you have not gotten to the spiral model yet, right? So you want to answer all the questions in order. Don't skip the pages, right? This is a common question that I receive. When it's talking about which fields I use as predictors and not part of the assignment, it's actually asking about these properties, right? And then later there is another question which variable is the strongest predictor. Then it's asking about the model. So just help yourself by doing all of the questions in order. Do not skip this, because the next question builds on the question before it. So this is important, okay? So this is a summary of what we talked about, and I wrote it down, so it helps you to have in writing, right? What unique value means, and what basically it reads the column as unique if there are more than 50 unique values. It's going to read unique. So don't misinterpret it. It's not a unique identifier like a social security number. No, it's not. This is because there are more than 50 values, right? So here I basically wrote down, oh, I forgot to show you the calculation. I was thinking, what did I forget to show you? So take a look at the calculations. What I could do is this. This secretly, this is a discounted cost. This is a calculation. So to create my calculation, I can do this. I click here, I select the calculation, and I'm gonna call this column as a big deal, right? Big price cut. Let's just say it this way. And what I'm going to do is I want to pick my column, and I'm gonna search for the cost, right? I just know it's called cost. I'm gonna search for it. This is a student cost. I pick the student cost, and I want to do is something like minus 2,000, something like that. So what it's going to do is it's going to create the calculated column, right? When I do the calculation, it's going to add a column, and it's going to end this to the end. Okay, so now when I do this, of course, I have to make sure that the cost is not negative, because it's going to be, well, but that's okay. I'm just showing you. I could also use the calculated column to define another calculation, and so on, right? So here also, this is a list of functions that I could use to define my calculations, right? Sum, if, and so on. What I could also do is I could duplicate this, right? I can duplicate this, and then I can do this, perhaps minus 400, right? I can do this. Or I don't like it, I can undo this. Well, I'm just showing you how to do it. But what you do in your assignment is going to be in light of your assignment, right? Here I'm showing you how to do it. And I also spelled out the differences on a binion, right? Different types of binion and what can be done, the differences between a numeric binion and a categorical, right? Where you have to explicitly define the category. And if I did not put one of these cities in a region, right? Or here I call it area, then the columns that I created would have the missing values. If I have this list here, right? If I did not do group remaining, I would have missing values in that column. Yes, there would be no error, but the column would have missing values. It would not know if it's area 1 or area 2, right? Well, maps are very nice because you can do the drill down. See this? Sometimes you can have something calculated by the country. You could have some calculations by state, and then you can further drill down by the cities, right? So this is a nice thing about, this is called the hierarchy. Some examples of the drill down hierarchy would be when you have a country, state, and when you have the city, right? Another example would be you're looking at the average GPA for all the graduate students in UMUC. Then you drill down to the data analytics program. Then you further drill down to the data 610. And then you drill down even further to the session of data 610, right? That's an example of the hierarchies. That's a nice functionality, see? Well, here, well, remember this picture, I put it intentionally. So if I delete, there's no recycle bin, it's gonna be gone forever, right? And here I put some tips on how to ask questions. Suppose that I don't know, I'm a beginner, right? And I don't know how to ask my questions. So what I could do is, I could click on my data set, right? I can click on this. And then what I could do is this. There are different types of questions. I can click here, how to ask my question. And see this, I have different types of comparing, aggregating, sorting, predicting, and so on. Like for instance, I want to look at the aggregation. And here are some of the starting points. And of course, I can change this. Like I can do our student GPA by county, right? And then I click ask. And based on that, it's gonna give me the starting points that I might be interested in, right? Well, here, I don't have the city. Otherwise, I would have shown you the breakdown, but in this data set, I don't have the. But this is, you can pick the visualization here, right? So that just basically, that slide just shows you what you can do, right? Well, this is here. This is what I'm talking about. Well, well, this is the tree we discussed, right? We discussed the decision tree visualization, but trust me, you're gonna need to watch this section of the recording again, because by the time you get to week 5 or week 6 rather, you know, you will need a refresher. You'll have to watch it again, but that's fine. Now here, I showed you about analysis button, right? It showed me which variables are significant. And for the categorical variable, it's also showing me the confusion matrix. There is no confusion matrix for numeric target, just for the categorical. And categorical when the number of values is known, right? So I'm basically showing you what you can do, different ways to view it, and you can do formatting. This is just to make it look readable and to make it look nice, right? And this one, well, what I did was I spelled it out because you're going to come back to this slide later on in 2 weeks from now. And here I just showed you what each number in this matrix means. So I want you to go back to this in a couple of weeks from now. Now it's not gonna make sense, okay? But here I explain how each number was calculated, okay? I explained how each number was calculated. And I believe somehow you could look at the leaf nodes to determine this. I believe it should not be as complicated when you have just 2 values. Here you have just 2. So you want to go back to this and check how it's done with 2. And also you want to look at the recording in the week 6 content when you get to that point, right? So here I'm just showing you the steps to create a display. And what I did today, I created the dashboard. And I'm saving these 2 guys here, infographic and a storybook for the next session. Okay? So here I'm just showing you that you can add different discoveries and you can also add a widget. In your homework assignment, you're asked to add the text. And then for the images, you cannot add the image directly. You have to add a link to the online image. You cannot add the image directly. Then you can add different shapes and so on, right? Here is what we talked about, the focus mode. If you click on that arrow of the visualization, it will open it up, and you can do, the interface will look similar to the discovery. Well, you can add your filters and so on, right? But this is important. When I'm looking at my visualizations in here, I'm in a display. When I'm looking at this here, right? And when I'm making a change here, it will be applicable only to this dashboard. It won't be applicable to all dashboards where I use this visualization. I'm so glad that I opened this dashboard because I forgot to tell you that the dashboard has 2 modes. there is a view mode and there is an edit mode. Right now, notice that I cannot edit anything because I'm now in a view mode. What I can do is this. See this? I click on a pencil and that will put me in the edit mode. Now I can edit, right? So this is what I was talking about. I can go in here. Well, remember this, I added this as from one of the discoveries, right? I added this from one of the discovery workbook. If I go in and if I change the formatting, right? If I change something here, this change will not transfer to the discovery workbook, right? Or if I go back to my discovery workbook and I make a change, this change will not show on this dashboard. That change will not show on this dashboard. It will only show on the dashboard that I create afterwards, right? So making a change to visualization here, right? The change will not be propagated to visualizations that I have here. Or if I make a change here, it will not be propagated to the dashboard that I already created, right? Another thing is that if I delete my data, that was used for the display, that's it. There is nothing I can do to fix it. That's it. It's because every single display is associated with a data ID, right? Each of these has an ID behind the scenes that we don't see. And whenever this here becomes unavailable, the ID becomes unavailable, that's it. I can upload the data with the same name again, but I cannot fix my display because it's not associated with a name, it's associated with an ID. And well, the reason I emphasize it so much because I've had students who deleted something on a day when the assignment was due. So this is the reason I warn, right? I don't want this to happen to you. Okay, so lesson learned from your schoolmates: avoid delete later when you're sure that you don't need something. Then it's a good time to delete, right? But if you need it, if you think you might need something, you can create a folder called trash, right? Similar to what I have been doing. On my admin account, right? I have a folder which I call trash. So everything that is saved in the wrong place, anything that students save in the wrong place, will end up in this folder, right? I have a folder that I call trash, and anything that people save in the wrong place, it ended up in this folder. I was nice. I did not actually delete, okay? So, because, maybe somebody claims it, then, yeah. Anyhow, let's go back. See, I want to make sure that I cover it, right? Well, this is important, the 3 levels of filters, right? Current tab, all visualizations, individual visualizations. That's what I showed you. And then you've got the variations, right? Well, those are the properties. And I would recommend that you guys sit down and just play with all options. This is what I did. Right? So I spelled out what different options mean, right? But behind the scene, I had to do a lot of research and I had to do a lot of playing around. Now, email settings, that's basically to make the email visualization button to work, but don't attempt it. I believe it may have been turned off. Okay, I believe it may have been turned off. And also, do not attempt to download the data to your desktop. It's not working. I don't want you guys to spend time on this because for security reasons it was turned off. So just pretend that this option here does not exist. Export. Pretend it does not exist. It's not on. It was turned off. Okay. So do not waste your time on this, okay? Now, well, here I'm just showing you the components of the landing. Well, this is a display landing page and what you can do, right? Different sorting options. And this is what not to do, right? Here is an example. Somebody in this case it may have been me, I saved something in the root of the shared area. This was deleted, right? So the admin went in and deleted because this is a problem, right? Well, eventually, we'll talk about it in the next class, about the assignment 5 and shared folders, but this is just to give you heads up that the will be a group project, and at that time you will have the folder for your group, but not yet, okay? Here, well, this is very interesting. This is called the Learning Center, and it has a set of interesting videos that you might find helpful. Earlier, we had a course that students were required to take, but the course is not available right now. Instead, they put together this learning center. It's like there are videos on how to create a calculation, how to create a hierarchy, etc. You may find this helpful. Then I put some links to the you know, some interesting studies, case studies, right? Like the 4th of July fireworks. I realize it's too early, but it's always good to plan ahead, right? And there are some more. These other case studies that you might find interesting. Okay, so now getting back to my earlier questions, I asked somebody to volunteer how many lines of code I will have written this evening. So could anybody tell me how many lines of code did I write today? Anybody? Did anybody pay attention? Did I write any Java today? Did I write any Python? Did I write any C++ or any R or any, what do you call it, .NET or anything? Did I write any JavaScript here? Huh? Has anyone been paying attention? So let me look at the chat here. Zero code. Excellent. Well, excellent. Zero code. So this is a plus side of this application. I don't need to write any code. Well, what I can do is I just go in, I ask the question, and it shows me everything I need to see, right? This is a plus sign, right? Obviously. Yep, excellent. Zero. Excellent. So this is a plus sign. At the same time, this is a downside. Do you know why? Because this is a closed source. I cannot see how my algorithm was implemented. I cannot customize it, right? So later on in one of the discussions, you'll be asked to discuss the pros and cons. One thing to discuss is that closed source versus open source, right? Because here, nice thing is that you don't need to worry about code. This is an excellent place to get started with your visualizations. And if you don't know how to code, you can get valuable information, right? Another part that you don't see the implementation and that you cannot customize it, right? So that's a downside. That's one thing, you know. Well, you're gonna notice more pros and cons as you keep using the application, right? But that's an important one, the closed source versus open source. Okay? So is there anything that I should have emphasized? Well, everyone is gonna remember that after this, if you have not done it already, and I can track who have not, you want to accept an invitation. Well, the reason is if anything goes wrong, it could take up to 2 to 5 business days to fix. And we had a couple people in other session where something went wrong on the server side and they had to fix it. Yes, very important. Do not contact the IBM, contact me. Well, the reason is you don't have the subscription information that they're gonna need, and then IBM people, they don't know, they don't have your homework assignment requirements, and this is a disqualifying because you're not supposed to be asking the IBM to do the homework for you. This is very serious issue. So if there is a technical problem, you're going to contact me, and then I will decide if it's something that requires IBM attention or if it's something that we can resolve internally, okay? We're gonna make this agreement. right? Because very often the issue is missing an important instruction. It happens, you know, we all do that, not a problem. Or sometimes it's a server side that they needed to fix couple users on the back end. They had to do something to activate their account. So that's the reason I'm now saying do it as soon as possible, because I don't want you to be the student who could not finish the assignment just because there was a problem with activation. You know, I mean, it happened beyond our control. However, to prevent this, the student could have attempted to activate her account early in the week. Then there would have been time to resolve the issue, right? So, you know, we do what we can, and that's the reason. And I emphasize it a lot. All right. Anything else? I guess, Steve, is there anything that I may have forgotten to say?
No, I think you've been very thorough as always. And again, I want to remind everybody this is being recorded, so you can view it again, slow it down, look at the sections that you need to review. And of course, it'll be available to everyone, even those who weren't here tonight. So let's get up and running with Watson Analytics. It's a great program, but as with all programs, the best thing you can do is practice, practice, practice. Try things, experiment, and that's how you learn. Don't try to go in and just do a one assignment and be done with it. Work on it, have some fun with it, because it's really an interesting, a great way to get introduced into the world of analytics, quite capable for an entry-level program. So thanks, Elena. I'll go ahead and, or Yelena, I'll go ahead and stop the recording, and I will send the link to the professor for the section, and Yelena will make the slides available also. So have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you.